The Premier, Daniel Andrews, says Victoria will not follow the lead of New South Wales, which plans to ease restrictions for unvaccinated people around the start of December. Victoria has recorded another 705 new COVID cases, which means there are now more than 8,500 active infections in the state. Sadly, a man in his 70s from Darebin has died with the virus. Victoria's vaccine rates are inching closer to key national benchmarks, and Daniel Andrews says lockdowns can't be in place forever, but he's warned those who haven't been immunised will be locked out for some time to come. Bridget Rollison has the latest.
In 3 weeks, this Warrnambool pub could be a pub with no beer for the unvaccinated.
I'm sure some people will kick off and complain that they can't get in because they're not double vaxxed, but certainly, if they're the rules, they're the rules, and we're happy to go with that.
Next month, Victoria's first no jab, no entry rules will be introduced, with Warrnambool one of the regional cities taking part in the trial, but there's still many unanswered questions.
Do they need security guards? Is this going to escalate into something very difficult? That's why it's a trial.
I think it would be great, especially if it means if we can get back to some normality.
But while Victoria is still locking in trials, New South Wales has announced a goal that will unlock freedoms for all its residents.
I'm hopeful and optimistic that by the time we get to 1 December, we will have over 90% of our adult population double dosed.
Once it hits that target, nightclubs reopen and masks won't be needed in the office, and the unvaccinated will have the same rights as those who've been jabbed. But Daniel Andrews says that won't be replicated in Victoria anytime soon.
I'm not going to be saying to people, "I'll just wait 5 weeks and you'll be able to have all the freedoms." No, that's not a guarantee at all here. But we will have people locked out of venues and events like the Boxing Day test if they haven't had 2 jabs.
We're lagging so far behind, we're falling behind.
Victoria recorded 705 new cases. 30% of those were in the Hume LGA, while New South Wales recorded 787, its lowest figure in over a month. Cases there began to stabilise when they hit the 50% double dose mark. We're not far away, and to accelerate the rollout, GPs and pharmacies across 11 Melbourne council areas can apply for grants of up to $10,000.
So the time to get vaccines tends to be after hours, outside business as usual, and at weekends. And as we all know in our society, that means there's a cost implication.
The Premier says changes are also coming to the isolation rules. Victorians who've been caught at Tier 1 exposure sites may no longer need to stay home for 14 days, with health authorities considering relaxing the rules once we hit that 80% double dose target. Bridget Rollison, ABC News, Melbourne.
At least one cafe owner has already seen the impact on business of lockdown politics. Across Victoria, business leaders say they're worried about the hospitality industry being put on the front line of policing COVID rules.
Ben Williamson loves making coffee and supporting causes. Last week, after police and anti-lockdown protesters clashed in Melbourne, he ran a fundraiser to help the Blue Ribbon Foundation and copped a barrage of abuse online for it.
It really hurt us to have heard that we would have bricks or Molotovs thrown at us. The people would jump onto Google reviews to ensure that we would get no business.
The last thing they need is this sort of behaviour. It really is very distressing.
The Blue Ribbon Foundation raises money for hospitals in memory of officers killed on the job. It relies on community fundraising.
Just because we're trying to raise money for a fundraiser doesn't mean we should be subject to online abuse.
Sadly, business leaders say it's not a one-off experience, with other cafes facing regular abuse in lockdown, mainly for enforcing COVID restrictions. And as the sector looks forward to reopening, many worry they'll be caught in the crossfire of lockdown and vaccine politics.
This is not the Victoria that we want. This is not the activity that we want to see. We want to support Victorians. We don't want to see businesses unfairly targeted.
Here in Blackburn, Ben Williamson is urging Melburnians to support hard-hit hospitality businesses. He's battled to keep his cafe open, and he doesn't want to see other cafes or bars bear the brunt of anti-lockdown or anti-vaccination frustrations.
As much as we're all getting a little bit frustrated with the lockdown, we're doing everything we can to ensure that there's some sort of positivity.
And many in the community are supporting Ben Williamson and the charity. It's raised $600 and counting. Elise Kinsella, ABC News, Melbourne.